Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy Network. I'm Jacqueline Charles, the hostess with the mostest. Well, I'm hoping everyone's having a wonderful day, evening, wherever you're watching or however you're watching. Please do me a favor, grab a pen and paper because this lady's going to drop some wisdom. We're going to cackle, we're going to laugh. Come and join our tribe if you want to subscribe. So, let me get rid of some housekeeping. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to join our tribe, you must subscribe. Well, in a world where societal norms are dictating the paths of parenthood, we have the one and only Miss Marcia Davis. She's the guru. She emerges as a beacon of empowerment and choice. That's right, choice. With unwavering courage and a profound sense of self, she's chartered her own unique course by embracing, hold on, y'all, by embracing child-free lifestyle. Join us as we delve into the life and wisdom of the remarkable, that's what I said, the remarkable Marcia Davis. She's a true guru of child-free living. Hello, Miss Marcia. How you doing?
I am doing great. Let's get to talking and making people smile and feeling good about themselves.
Exactly. So let's just jump into this.
Okay, I'm
Why
jumping.
is there such a stigma if a woman decides not to have children? Why is there so much backlash?
I love that question because there are so many answers to that. The first answer that comes up to me is the idea that we who choose not to have children or shouldn't have children or simply, don't want to have children are selfish. But I use the word self-care because we have thought very carefully about this and have decided we don't want them. But people view us as selfish, hedonistical, egotistical, unloving, uncaring, on and on and on. That's the first thing that comes up first. The second thing is many people are very threatened because if they are already a parent, how dare we speak against their children? None of us, well, I should say most of us, are not speaking against children. We're speaking against people claiming that we're less than they are. So, backlash, yeah, and it isn't just in America, it is worldwide. And we're lucky to be in America because in other countries, you can actually be stoned to death.
So, what would you say? Because there's so many kids, because generational things have changed. You get out of college, you want to work, you may get married older, 30, 40, maybe, whatever. How can you help someone who realizes, whether they come from a childhood, they have childhood trauma they're dealing with, but you know what? I don't want to have children. What kind of conversation or how can you help that person feel? Because it's hard when you're sitting down with your girlfriends and you don't have any children and everyone's talking, everyone's whispering, and you're feeling left out. How would you kind of help that person to it's okay to feel
Right.
like it's okay?
And I think the most important thing is to understand who you're speaking with. If you're speaking with a parent who's happy, they want you to be happy. They don't come from any other place. So they're trying to make you as happy as they are without thinking about what your goals are, what your needs are, what your boundaries are. So I think in the beginning, when I first came out on 60 Minutes, what was I thinking? Okay. And I faced death threats and I lost my job as a teacher and I had my dog's life threatened and I had picketing that said godless bitch when I went to speak. That's a different kind of defiance. When you reach that, my feeling is do not get into a push pull. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. Because they'll never be right. I'm sorry, they'll never be wrong. So I teach people to say, well, you know what? You may be right. And that shuts people up. But we're not saying they are right. We're giving them permission to be right because they'll never be wrong. So in the beginning, I was angry and snarky and bitchy and blah, I'm going to prove everything. And now, why? Why do I have to prove anything? Why does anybody? But the push pull is still here, and that's the word pronatalism. big word. I remember the first time I learned it, I couldn't wait to speak it. I felt so smart. And I didn't know what it was. I never heard of it. But it's real. And that's another whole topic. I don't know if you want to go there now or you want to wait. But pro-birth is everywhere. It's hard to make that choice unless you're absolutely certain, or unless perhaps you have a debilitating illness that you don't want to bring on, but then they're pushed into having adoption or surrogacy, all sorts of nonsense.
When did you
Yeah.
realize you didn't want to have children?
You're going to laugh. I think the first time I was a little girl and I said, Mommy, where do babies come from? And my mother looked at me and she batted her eyelashes and she said, well, Daddy plants a seed inside the mommy, and then the mommy grows the baby inside her uterus. I don't know what that was. And then she pushes it out of her vagina. I remember saying, what? What? I was a little thing. I mean, I've always been little, but it was like, I don't think that's for me. And then she looked at me and she said, but you're so worth it. You're so worth it. So, and I began to think, am I? I don't know. I don't know if I want that, but I'm a little girl. Oh, wait. It wasn't until, let me think, was it this first marriage was dreadful. I would never have a child with that man. Second marriage I thought was great until he fell in love with my girlfriend. But it was in the second marriage, I know, read the book. In the first book, all the details. But in the second marriage, there we were. I was in my 30s and that pressure started. And I thought back to when my sister was born. I was 15 when she was born, and there were no other children between us. My mom had remarried and had a child with my beloved stepfather. My eyes widened every day when I saw the work that my mom had to put in. Now, my mom was the first television repair woman in the United States of America.
Wow.
I know. So does the apple fall far from the tree? She had a business. We had a nanny who came every day and left every day. But my mother had me as a teenager and little Robin as an infant. I didn't know how she could do it. It was 24 hours a day, even though she wasn't home, the worry about my baby sister. And I took care of her a lot. I was there for her when she put a button up her nose and I had to take her to the emergency room, when she dislocated her shoulder. I was there to see everything, not just the myth, which there are so many beautiful moments. I'm not denying that, but this reality, and I began to see it. So into the second marriage, when we started getting that pressure, well, my mother-in-law used to pat me on the belly and say, go home and practice. What's wrong? Where's the baby? Why is this guest bedroom a guest bedroom? You need a crib in there. And then I read the book that changed my life. I think it's still in existence. The Baby Trap.
Wow, The Baby Trap.
By Ellen Peck. This is, I'm sorry, but it's very worn.
Right.
My darling Ellen, who we lost in her 50s from breast cancer, which was such a shame. This was the only book. There were no other books about choosing to be, at that time it was called a non-parent. And she formed the National Organization for Non-Parents. So I joined it, met her, and was involved very much with the first convention of the people who believed in non-parenting. It was later changed because we didn't want to be a non to the National Alliance for Optional Parenting. And that's when I got on 60 Minutes because they were filming, and they asked me if I would allow them to come with me when I spoke to my then in-laws about our choice. The one who said, go home and practice.
So what did your mother-in-law say when you told her that you guys decided? Like, what was her reaction? Is that her only son? Was that her only son?
No, she had two sons.
Okay.
The other son had a son. But he wasn't married to a Jewish woman. I was the true Jew. So Warren and I would have had the Messiah. Okay.
Right.
It was kind of different. We got to let her down there. First of all, she had no idea what the discussion would be. And when I called her and said, I've been coming into Manhattan and I'd like to be able to talk to you tonight about it. Do you mind if 60 Minutes comes along? And she said, what? Are you a nudie dancer? You into drugs?
No,
Group sex?
no.
You an alcoholic? What could be so bad? I said, well, it may be very upsetting, but is it okay? Okay, I'll get the rugelach and I'll make the coffee and come on over. And it wasn't, it was 2 hours of intense questioning and about 10 minutes on 60 Minutes, edited
Mhm.
to fit their perspective. And at the end, Mike Wallace, who I never met in person, said, "Pardon our perversion for airing this on Mother's Day. Good night, everyone."
Wow. So how was her reaction when you were talking?
Right after, we stayed over in the house and we had the rugelach and the coffee and a bite to eat. We went to bed, and in the morning, I found a piece of paper under my door. She had written the most beautiful poem where her heart was broken. And in the end, it said, "To whom will you leave your worldly goods? To the robbers, the junkies, or just the plain hoods? But this is how our story ends. Our children, though married, are really just friends." I know, manic. And yet, look what she wrote. Because if we really think about it, those parents who are waiting for grandchildren
Yeah.
are feeling the pressure from their peers, because
Yes.
grandparenting is the icing on the cake of parenting. The more grandchildren, the better
Yeah.
you've been. So
Yeah.
they feel disappointed and they can't show those pictures. As their friends say, "Look at my little."
Right. I remember those days. So here's the thing too. So you there's also this misconception, and it worked well, but now things are different. We're in a society where it's me, 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 me. I remember people would say, well, who's going to take care of you when you get older? Well, you have people who have parent kids, and the kids are not taking care of them. They have to take care of themselves. So you can't say that anymore. But
They still say it.
right, right. They can, but they still say it. So my question to you is, when you decided you didn't want to have children, and you sat down with your now husband and told him that, I don't know the age group or whatever, but you still could have adopted, did
It's
he
not my
agree?
now husband. We divorced him. I'm now into 3. He's the
Oh,
key.
number 3. Okay, so well,
Which
isn't life gets better with 3? So when you were married to, let's say, your second husband, and you told him you didn't want to have children,
I
how?
didn't tell him. I handed him the book. I said, "We need to talk," because he wrote a song on his guitar. He played it for me, with picturing me and him on the back porch with a baby in my arms. He
Oh
was
my God.
thrilled with the same pronatalistic thinking that this is what I wanted. We're going back to the days of the dinosaurs. So, I mean, well, it was the 70s. It wasn't that far, but
Right, it wasn't that
I
long
was
ago. Yeah.
imbued with his thinking that I wanted children. We never discussed it.
Because it wasn't something you discussed back then. You just got married, and everyone automatically assumed there was going to be a child somewhere, somehow, some form.
Yes. Yes.
So, looking back at your life, what would you tell your younger self? What would you tell your younger self now?
Marcia, when you were that little girl and you started thinking and watching, and as a teenager, wondering if you were wanting to be a parent, you didn't have to go through therapy. You didn't have to feel that there was something abnormal with you. You didn't have to worry that there was a missing link inside of you without this so-called maternal desire to have a child. I mean, you did have the beginnings of breasts coming out, but you never grew up to be an opera singer. And it was perfectly okay to feel those feelings and ask those questions, because you deserve to know what your boundaries are, what your goals are. So
Right.
don't feel bad. And at least you reached a time where you could reach others to make them feel better.
You know, it's almost like society has it. It's not almost, it's true. If you don't have a child, you're not really a woman. And that's what they make you feel like. And that's why you have to have your own self worth,
Oh,
or you're missing something, or if you don't want to hold someone's baby, there's something wrong with you.
Right. Right. And if we dare to say that our animals who are now, she's now having a nervous reaction, my little chihuahua, if we dare to say that they're, my hair is just, oh, well, it's okay. They like me anyhow. Whatever. If we dare to say that we have fur kids, well, you can't compare
Yes.
an animal to a child. Well, yes and no. I mean, I still have to care for this animal. She relies entirely on me and my husband. It is a responsibility, and people should think before they adopt or take in an animal. What was your question? I think I lost it.
It's a lot of work. No, meaning, because you don't want to have to have children. You don't, and you may, for example, like, especially when you're working around a lot of people, someone gets married, then they get pregnant, then they have the baby. Let me show you all the pictures. It's okay if you don't want to look at the pictures. You shouldn't be forced to look at the pictures. And there are some people, let's keep it quiet, that just cannot stand children.
Right.
And that's okay too. Yes, people, it's okay if someone cannot stand children. At least they know they can't. Give them that space.
If you see a picture of a child that's positively ugly, I mean, I'm sorry, the dog is having a hissy attack. Positively ugly. And you say, excuse me. I'm sorry. Boy just went behind something. You need something. Okay, I got it.
She actually said, if a child is positively ugly. Now, let me go ahead and say this. The views of Marcia Davis is not the views of the Women Are Worthy Network. These are solely expressed by her. So we were talking about the ugly babies.
There's something you can say because we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
And they do feel that their children are precious. What you can say is, you must feel so proud. That makes them feel good. Or they're just as cute as they can be. And you don't have to come out with that as an ugly kid.
Right.
Think it, and who knows, the child can turn into a beautiful swan.
Right.
The point is, why do we lie? Why do we say things that we don't feel? And why are we forced to have to fit into this routine of saying things that make people feel good, and when we don't feel it? I mean, I've learned that over the years, and it makes me feel better to say that. And oh, the other thing is, when you're invited to baby showers, can we talk about that?
Oh, yes.
You're going to laugh. I recently went to a baby shower, and sadly, I shouldn't say sadly, she chose to be pregnant, and she's young. She has no money. So I bought her a beautiful little set of onesies from age 3 months to 6 months, and condoms.
Wait a minute. I know I think there's something technical difficulties. Did you say you went to a baby shower, right? That's one. Because anyway, you went to a baby shower, you bought her some onesies from 3 to 6 months, and then you bought her condoms.
A box of condoms.
And I guess because, like you said, she didn't have any money, so you just wanted to make sure that she was prepared after her 6 weeks checkup to make sure. Marcia.
And it caused a big laugh. Everybody was hysterical.
What was her reaction? Did she laugh?
Yes, she laughed because everybody was laughing.
Right.
The point that I tried to make also is, if the man is wearing a condom, I never think a woman should not also be protected in some way, shape, or form. But at least I gave her that. She couldn't afford it. So at least she could present that to him, and then perhaps go on birth control if she wanted to later. It was I was frightened to do that. It was the first, I always say do that. It was the first time I actually did it, because if I say it, I better do it. And I'm not upset about that. And I think it was something that was important, because I don't believe one person should have birth control. I believe both.
But my question is, why would you even, because I'm curious to know this answer, why would you even attend a baby shower?
Oh, that's another good question. Because
Yeah.
many times I have said, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I don't want to hurt anybody. And I'll send a gift. But in this case, it was one of the women that I had taught English as a second language to. And
Okay.
I saw her growing up. And the other woman who was with me, I had taught that woman to be a teacher at ESL. So it was like we consider them to be part of our family.
Okay.
How much we love them. So I've seen her as a little girl under the table while her mama learned English, and now as a mature woman expecting her child.
Marcia, how should someone prepare for this? You know, at a certain age, you don't want children. You're adamant that you're not going to have children. You meet the quote unquote love of your life, and you don't say anything to him in the beginning.
Bad.
So, two questions. When should you say it? And two, sometimes you may have to gather the guts, the grit, the steel to have that conversation and be prepared that when you tell this man you don't want to have children, it's not because you can't have children, you don't want to have children. How can you prepare her to prepare herself to tell him to have this conversation?
Well, let's also not forget that her can be a her with a her. Many gay couples are under the tremendous pressure to adopt or surrogacy a child. Because now in this day and age, it isn't just him and her, it's her and her and him and him. And it's the same question that should be asked.
Yeah, but I think it's a lot different when it's a her and her compared to a her and him. It's way different.
Right.
Because at the end of the right, because then they have to go out and find a surrogate and all that. So that's a whole different cost.
Right.
But specifically, I'm focusing this on a her and a him.
Gotcha.
Because her and her, I get it, but it's a different cost. It's not her and her are not just going to get pregnant. They have to get the him to be a part of that, whether it's the whole thing.
I get it.
Right,
First, let me answer that. First of all, you don't come out the first minute you speak to somebody, because it's like you may enjoy this first experience with the person, go out, have a lovely dinner, or enjoy whatever you want with this person. You got to make sure that you're in a situation where, in my opinion, that this could go on. And then perhaps maybe the third or the fourth time you're with this person, bring it up, because this is such an important decision. And in one of the chapters of my book, I devote a whole chapter to this, because many women will speak to a man and they'll say, oh, whatever you want, and then find out that that's not what it is, because they think they're going to talk you into it, that you really want to have a little one of them. So it's heart-rendering, it's heart-breaking how many times this tremendous love is thwarted by dishonesty or change of mind. And that could happen. So you have to, give that support to that person to say when it's the right time, and you'll know the right time. I think we need to discuss this, because if we're going to be in a relationship, and if this is leading into a permanent relationship, whether it's permanent partnership or marriage, there's going to be pressure to have children. And I need to know how you feel about that.
Yeah, and then also we have to think from a male perspective, right? Just for this argument's sake, from the male perspective, what kind of pressure he's being put under, because especially if he's the only son and the last name, the line, and the parents are like, well, wait a minute, how are we gonna continue the lineage of our last name? So we got to think about also, and hopefully he has a network of people who can support him, but more than likely he's going to be leaning on you to help navigate through that.
Jacqueline, I once was speaking at a senior class, high school class, and that thing came up. There was a kid, he was listening and listening, He raised his hand, he says, you know what, I'm going to be honest. Damn it, I just want my name carried on. So somebody said, sit down, Jones. It's so funny. Having your name or your bloodline, let's face it, there are some bloodlines that maybe shouldn't.
Exactly.
There's a big, huge billboard on one of the streets near me, and it says, it's a picture of a fetus, and it says future soccer player, and then on the other side it's a soccer player. hello, do we know what a child is going to turn out to be? It could be a Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, rarely, but thank goodness. But that's so silly to say that just because there's a fetus forming, it's going to be the most magnificent child on the planet, or the most talented, or the genius. I recently saw the Tamron Hall show, which I love, and I still do. And the whole show was divided to children who are exceptionally precocious and bright and talented and adorable. This is part of that pronatalism that we're talking about, and it creates the wrong understanding of the possibility of children. It's
Wow.
I never even realized until I became attuned to this thing called pronatalism. And there is a book that I do recommend by, she calls me her crony friend because she's older, and it's The Baby Matrix by
Wow.
Laura Carroll. Your eyes will be blown open by how much out there is teaching us, brainwashing us, supporting us to want to be a parent.
Well, no, it's true because even when you think about it, when you're growing up, you're giving a doll and it's your baby, right? Subliminally, that's what that's telling. It's not that it's your sister or what, it's your baby, you're a mother. You know, when you play house growing up, innocently playing house, you're the mother, he's the father, and the baby. Then when you go to school, you're constantly hearing that. The television shows, it's shoving that stuff down your throat. Now, for me, I'm for whatever choice anyone wants to make. I'm not telling anyone not to, right? I'm not here to tell anyone not to have children or to have children. But I think it's so great to have these conversations because we have conversations about being a mother. We have conversations about losing children. But what about people who chose not to have children? So my question to you is, have you ever once just one watching a television show or a movie or one iota of a second, nanosecond, that think about or thought about, damn, I wonder if I had a child, what it would look like.
Of course. How could you not escape it? I mean, when I was younger, of course, now I'm 80. If I had a child, I start a new religion. But when I was growing up and I would go to the hospitals after friends gave birth, and I'd see them holding the baby and all that attention, and oh my God, and some of the babies were adorable. I thought, oh, I don't have this experience. And then I stopped and thought, what happened before this? It's like that freeze moment of that picture of that baby, for whatever reason, the first walk, the first talk, the first I love you. I do miss that. Who wouldn't miss that? But I think what happened before that, what happened after that. Nobody talks about how many people suffer during birth. Nobody talks about how many die. Nobody talks about after, hanging hemorrhoids, prolapsed uteruses or vaginas. It's like you're not supposed to talk about that. And I've been seeing more and more talking about it.
Yeah, the sleepless nights, the postpartum, depression. Where I was watching a series and it was a documentary. The lady, she didn't want to have children. She eventually had children. She's been screaming. She was giving signs out to her husband, but he thought she was just tired. It turns out she eventually unalived her children, right? And he missed the signs. He missed the signs. So I'm saying, we have to be cognizant. We have to, that's why it's good to know what you want. Walk out in your purpose. Don't let anyone convince you, because in today's society, it's all about brainwashing. Turn on the everything is brainwashing. And that's what back in the day, Madison Avenue was all about, brainwashing. And it's okay to be okay with not having children. But you also have to surround yourself with some other women or men that feel the same way, because you do have people who somehow, I think they're heartless. Some of the things that I hear out of people's mouth when someone chooses not to, like, oh my God, as you said, you're selfish. Oh my God, how can you not want to have children? How can you not want to do this? And I think we have to handle that with kid gloves, because maybe that person cannot have children. How about that? Right. Maybe they don't want to pass down that gene pool, that whatever it is that they have, they don't want that child to have. So I think we have to give people grace, the ones who have children and the ones who don't, because I'm telling you.
Absolutely. If you're happy and you've made that choice, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. I'm not saying everybody on this planet,
Right.
and I'm not saying in my personal life I don't like children.
Right.
Banned from teaching. My passion was teaching.
Wait. We can't escape that.
No, you can't.
Why were you banned from teaching? If you care to elaborate, because I'm nosy. I want to know.
Oh,
Inquiring
so
minds
good,
want
you're
to know.
nosy.
Okay.
Because after 60 minutes, the word selfish and the fear that I, as a teacher, didn't like children and that I was going to make them not want to have children. It was all irrational nonsense and ignorance took hold. So I had been the most active substitute teacher on Long Island because I had moved. And in
Right.
fact, I couldn't get a job as a regular teacher. I had to prove myself. I was up for the next job because parents were writing letters and saying, "Oh my God, hire this woman. She's the most amazing substitute teacher. My child is like coming home, can't wait to come back, and hoping her teacher is sick." But because of that word, and at the end, remember Mike Wallace, perverse, that's how I was viewed. Now, nobody would ever come out and say that to me. But the day after 60 Minutes aired, not one phone call from substitute service. I couldn't get a job anywhere. And I lost my pension for 15 years till I remarried Warren and had a new name. Got back into teaching a new genre, English as a second language, nominated by 600 peers to the Walt Disney's American Teacher Award. I lost it, but I was nominated. Look what the kids lost. Look what the parents lost as me being their teacher. And by the way, when I did teach, finally, oh my God, I loved it so much. 5 of the children that I taught are still in my life. 5 of them are in our will.
Wow. You know what? What's amazing to me? For me, my sixth grade teacher, I just love him, Mr. Harold Saperstein. Love him. And he's living in Florida now. And I don't make any moves without him, right?
Oh,
And I remember the impact that he had on me. He didn't when he became my teacher, he didn't have children. So the kids in the classroom was his children. I was his
like
daughter.
school kids.
Exactly. I was his daughter. And somewhere along the line, in the midst of the semester, his wife got pregnant with twins. And he always said we were his first children, his wife. So we lost contact. And it took me 3 months to track him down. I got a hold of his daughter-in-law, tracked him down. And his daughter-in-law is like, I'm not shocked at this because so many people will see him in the street while he's with his wife and say, oh my God, you had such impact on us, and so on and so on and so on. So when I got in touch with him, we were both crying on the phone, his wife, and so I would call him monthly, and I would have the other classmates call him to make him feel or to let him know how important he was to us. So to
Yes, a
see,
committed teacher
oh
is
yes,
sure.
yes, because he
Is a
was teaching in
loving, yes. I
he
had
was teach. I mean, he retired, and then they pulled him out of retirement to teach at one of the local colleges in Brooklyn.
that's what I'm
And then
saying.
finally, because of his health, he had to move to Florida. But to say that you were a great teacher and how 60 minutes could have and did at one point ruin your career. God forbid if that was your only source of income and you could have got, you
Yes,
know what I'm saying? It was your only source of income. And if you didn't have
yes.
a significant other or family or support to help you, Lord knows where you would have been. But the fact that you came through the fire, you came through the storm, and you're now making it normal. You're normalizing. No, I don't want to have kids, and I don't feel guilty about it. It's just, and people need to realize too, because of some trauma people suffer as children, that's also a reason why they don't want to have kids, right? Because they don't want to inflict the same horrors that they have gone through. So again, this is a space where we have to keep people, we have to keep it open. So what books do you have? Go ahead.
a lot of us are, they go back to saying, you must have had a horrible child. I had the greatest childhood of my life. I was an only kid. I had music. I had art. I had drama. I had camp. I was given such love from my mom and my dad. We're not all damaged from
Right.
childhood.
Definitely.
And I always stand up to that. And some are, yeah. And
Right.
it's absolutely. But one more thing. Recently on Instagram, I have been maligned as daring to say that I nurtured my school kids. There have been ignorant people saying you never should have been allowed to teach. That only people who have children know what it is to teach children. I always say, really? How many courses have you passed? I have a master's degree. It's just so ignorant to say something like that. Then maybe perhaps infertile people should not teach. Nuns should not teach in their, wherever they are. Men who can't produce children shouldn't teach. It's the most ignorant thing I have ever heard in my life. And I've seen many, 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 many teachers who are parents who should never teach.
Right. 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 And I've seen many parents who shouldn't be parents. Okay,
Exactly.
let's not forget about that. But so what books do you have that people can go out and read, and where you're going to be, or Instagram and all that?
This is the second book. What? You don't want children? This is a 3-year research all over the world of what happens if you say you dare not want children. It's also one chapter where I talk about when I came to the possibility of my own death because I had cancer. And I began to question, maybe I made the wrong choice.
Right.
That chapter was one of the most difficult chapters I have ever read. But at the end, I realized there were people in that room next to me getting chemo who were not children. They were neighbors, they were nieces, they were nephews, they were, people in the lives of these people. And many times it wasn't the children there for you at the end. So this is that. The first book, which I don't have a copy of, Confessions of a Child-Free Woman, is still going strong.
I like that.
I know. You're going to love it because the whole story of 60 Minutes, way more detail, is in that one. And some of the men in my life. And then I will be hosting a child-free group cruise in February from Puerto Rico to the beautiful Southern Islands. I'm not doing it myself this time. I handed the keys over to CF Travel Connect on Instagram, but I will be on board to give hugs. And I think what you said earlier about being with people who get you, who support you, life-changing. I mean, what you're doing now, amazing. Hugging.
Thank you. For me, I created this because I got sick of the negativity and all the stuff that was going on during the virus. I wanted to create a safe space for women and men to come on and talk about the positive things that they're doing, because you have one of these phones, negative things pops up. These many people on the lot. I'm sick of seeing the negativity. So I want to inject some positivity. And if you've gone through something, I wanted to know, and I'm sure other people want to know, how did you go through it? How did you get through it? And how are you where you are now? How did you, for example, if you're working in a company, how did you get to the level where you are, and how are you staying there? So when I realized, Marcia, we as women, particularly, we need each other.
Yes.
We already have the world tearing us down. We need to start supporting, because if we start truly supporting each other economically, we wouldn't have to worry about economic development and all that, or rely on the banks and all of that, because we should be able to support each other monetarily. If you have a book, we should all buy your book. If you're a painter, we should all use you. That kind of thing. That's where I think the true value of empowerment comes from. That word is overused and underdeveloped. I'm sick of that word. But I think this is my safe space here, the platform I've created for us to see, wow, she's a kick-ass woman. Wow, he's a kick-ass man, or he's a kick-ass child.
I like that. I'm going to put that in my title.
And as I said, when we have women who are mature, or people who are mature at a certain age, let's stop using the word seniors. That's for high schoolers. We're seasoned people. That's what we are.
I love that.
And I say that we're seasoned. because what it boils down to is we also need the young folks, right? The young
Oh,
folks,
do we?
it's almost like your chicken or your vegetables and there's nothing on you, right? Or them. But when you bring both parties together with season, you may have salt and pepper. Well, if you have the salt and pepper, you need to put something on it, and vice versa. And they're the chicken or they're the vegetable. So
Right.
once we come together, we're seasoned. So that's why we have to learn from each other, glean on each other as human beings. That's where it comes from. As human beings, let's start supporting each other. I mean, I can go on and on and on about, things like that, because for me, I'm married 34 years this year. So I talk about relationships. I'm a relationship coach, so I do that. But I want people to, as women, forget about being married, forget about being a mom, forget about being a daughter, forget about being a sister. Let's start embracing our true selves.
Brava, brava. I love it. One of the things I have looked forward to all my life is reaching the point of my life when I can say, I'll be 81 October 16th. Do I regret my choice? Not at all. I have waited for a lifetime to be able to say that, because even on 60 Minutes, there were other couples that were interviewed. And one of them, he snidely, he meaning, what's his name? Wallace. I betcha if I come back here, I'll find out that there's a little one between the two of you. And it's no. Don't you dare do that to anybody. Don't you?
That is so disrespectful.
And I've asked on that show. Oh no, they don't want me back for anything.
But you know what I'm glad that you found your voice.
Yes.
You have the confidence. You're walking in your purpose. You found your purpose as well. You had the voice, but you needed the purpose to catch up to the voice, which it has, obviously. And now you're walking in your purpose, and you're helping other people. You're helping other people too.
But it's not my life either.
Yes.
I'm also a wife. I also go to yoga, senior fitness, which I'm going to now tell them to do seasoned fitness. I like that much better. I volunteer with people in hospice. I do more than just this all the time. This is not my whole life.
Right.
This is a perfectly important part of my life, and it does give me purpose. But it's not the only thing.
Because we're, as women and as human beings, we're not one-dimensional.
No.
What we're showing on social media or writing a book or whatever, that's still just one dimensional. We can talk about little specks of things that we're doing, but when you spend the day with me, you're like, oh my God, you're doing all of that. Well, that's who I am, and that's whose I am, But you've opened up my eyes and ears, and I just love what you're doing. And I need to continue, let's continue to keep this. Right now you've been adopted into the Women Are Worthy Network. Into our family. You're adopted. So forget about it. Okay. You're here, and we want to make sure we can come back and have conversations with you to find out. My anniversary is on the 9th. And your birthday's on the 16th. So we definitely want to come back when you're writing. If you want to send me things that, hey, I'm going to be on such and such show or podcast, I have no problems promoting it, because we need to start supporting people, especially in your space, because there's so many people that want to shut you down and knock you out.
Yes. And people who ignorantly think this is all about money. This is about money.
And you know what? But you know what? Even if okay, I'm gonna play at devil's advocate.
Right for the money if we want.
Even if it is, so what? Every other area and space is making money. You have people who are doing tubal ligation, they're making money. You have people who are creating life for people, they're making money. So you know what? There isn't anything wrong. We can see. I'm gonna have to do a show on that. The dirty talk on money, because when it comes to, no, that's a whole nother show, because I am angry when people talk about, well, you're making money. First of all, you're assuming. And so what if I'm making money? What's the big deal? There's nothing wrong with making money off of this. Write your books and do a best-selling. Right. It's okay. It's okay.
There are 2 documentaries on there too.
Okay.
One is To Kid or Not to Kid by Maxine Trump. No relationship. And the other is My So-Called Selfish Life by Teresa Schechter. And it is on, you can get it on the internet and find out where it is. But it's worth it. To kid or not to kid. Yeah. And the other one is my so-called selfish life.
I'll put that on here as well.
Thank you. You're my sister friend now.
I'm telling you, I'm your sister friend. So without further ado, I just want to say, I want to give you your flowers. Thank you for being such a wonderful, giving person. Thank you for continue to carrying, because you are the guru, for carrying that torch. And Lord knows what, you told us a piece, a slice of what has happened to you. The fact that you were banned from teaching is just horrendous.
I still have a neighbor who screams child hater to me.
And that's disgusting. But you know what? We're not going to make their issues your issues. You're going to continue marching and forging forward in what you're doing. And I'm here on behalf of the Women Are Worthy Network, thanking you for what you're doing. We appreciate you. And we just want you to know we're here to support any and everything that you're doing. So we want to thank our wonderful guest, Miss Marcia Davis, for being such a phenomenal guest. I was going to say host, but you were hosting the show as well. And we want you to keep on keeping on, okay?
I will, I promise. And thank you for what you're doing.
And don't ever let anyone tell you, or exactly. So we want to welcome everyone and continue. Again, if you hit the notification bell, so when you subscribe, hit the notification bell and hit all. When you hit all, it'll tell you what's the next show. So we want to thank everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And make sure you make time for self-care.